Hey everyone, I hope that you all had a great week. As always, I want to give you an update on what has happened in Washington, D.C. this week. So let's start at the beginning. On Monday, President Biden released his annual budget. This is the document that outlines his priorities and visions for the coming year. But what this document actually says to me is that the president has not learned anything from his first year in office, and he's failed to prioritize the comparative advantages of the United States of America that we have in our country. There is a complete lack of strategy or planning behind the top line numbers, and it's your money that's being spent. So take, for example, the defense budget. It is clear to me that President Biden did not take stock of our military and what deficiencies may need to be addressed. Instead, he just threw a number out there without addressing the leadership failures that we have going on in our military. What happened in Afghanistan? What's going on with Ukraine? These things cannot be solved simply by throwing a 2.2% increase at the defense budget. You need to look at the defense, say, where are things lacking? Is there a nuclear deficiency? Is there a tank deficiency? Is there a gap in jets or aircraft carriers or something else? And then fix those things. That's not what is taking place here. So when we're talking about spending, defense or otherwise, that's also an issue that has to do with inflation. It raises the issue that we need to talk about across the country: fuel inflation, grocery inflation, inflation on building a home, or anything else that everybody's seeing in their lives. Now, if you're not aware, I became aware of this as your member of Congress. Every single year, every federal agency, pick your 170 federal agencies out there, they come to us as members of Congress and they say they need an increase in funding. They need more money, more of your money, because of inflation. I'm not just talking about this year. I mean, every year that I've been in Congress, those agencies have come to me and said, we need more because of inflation. Now, that's not how it should work. Those agencies, they're spending your tax dollars. And if anyone should get a break because of inflation, but unfortunately doesn't, it should be the taxpayer. Things are working the exact opposite of how they should work. There is a simple change that I would like to see made in the tax code. Tie tax rates starting this day, right this moment, to inflation rates. So if inflation is at almost 8% like it is right now, then when you go and file your taxes next April, your rate should be 8% lower. That is the equivalent of what your federal government agencies are doing to each and every one of you. They're coming to Congress and saying, we need more money because of inflation. Well, why shouldn't you as the taxpayer get more money because of inflation? It should happen to you, number one, before it happens to anybody else. Congress is responsible for taxpayer dollars. And I believe this is a common sense step to fulfilling that responsibility to you, the taxpayer. Now, also this week, I introduced legislation to ensure that the Biden administration isn't able to steamroll the checks and balances established by the Constitution. Now, as you've likely heard, President Biden is trying to create a new Iran nuclear deal. It was terrible the first time. It's going to be even worse the second time. Just as President Obama did in 2015, people called it the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or the Iran deal or whatever it is you know it by. It was a treaty. It was actually a treaty. And as such, it needed to be ratified by the United States Senate. President Obama tried to mince the words about it, confuse things, do some engineering on the wording to say that it wasn't a treaty and therefore it didn't need to be subjected to a Senate vote, but it should have been. And I believe that he was wrong then, and I believe that President Biden is wrong now. He doesn't want to bring it before the Senate for a vote either. President Biden is attempting to do the exact same thing. But what's even worse than it being a worse deal than the first time, is that the administration is reportedly considering making some unacceptable concessions to make that deal happen. One of those concessions is removing Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard from the list of terrorist organizations, state sponsors of terror. This is the same Revolutionary Guard who just weeks ago took responsibility for the bombing that took place steps away from the U.S. consulate in Iraq. The same Revolutionary Guard who in 2015 participated in a plot to bomb a Georgetown restaurant to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the United States of America. There's no doubt that it's a terrorist organization, and it's insane that the Biden administration would consider removing them from the state sponsor of terror list. Now, that's why I've introduced legislation to stop him. Together with Representative Scott Perry, he and I wrote a bill that would prohibit any administration from removing an entity from the foreign terrorist organizations list without congressional approval. The Biden administration is in clear need of checks and balances. It is unacceptable that President Biden is trying to skirt the Constitution and a co-equal branch of government, the United States Congress, in order to appease terrorists. Last thing I want to talk about. On the House floor this week, we passed a bill called the MORE Act, which would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level and regulate it similar to how alcohol is treated between the federal and state level. It should be up to individual states to determine their own marijuana laws, not the federal government. The Constitution says nothing about marijuana, clearly says that anything not explicitly laid out in that document will be handled by the states. I supported this bill because it's about upholding the Constitution, and I'm hopeful that my colleagues in the Senate will share that perspective and send it to the president's desk. So, in that, as always, it is an honor to serve you as your member of Congress. I wish you all the best. You all take care.